Hey you guys, what is going on? My name is Marcus and you are watching Roads Untraveled. We are back again with another crossover for you guys. This is the brand new and all new 2019 Cadillac XT4. This particular one is the sport model and it has literally every option in the book. So let's go over everything inside and out, take it for a drive and tell you guys what it's all about.
God won't take me to heaven. Blood on my knees when I'm begging. Why? I didn't mean to start a war. Wanna be strong but I'm broken. Try to breathe but I'm choking. I'm in a million pieces on the floor. I try to run but I need them. Just wanna feel something. I wish I was dreaming. I got used to the taste of.
All right, you guys, so the 2019 Cadillac XT4 is a brand new crossover from the brand. This is, like I said, the sport model, and you got a few things standard with the sport model, but this has every option that you can get with the package. So most notably are these 20-inch diamond cut wheels, a split 5-spoke design, really nice. I think it just totally makes the car, especially when compared to the other kind of standard ones. Another notable exterior design difference are these gloss black side skirt trim pieces and then the gloss black front trim piece as well versus the luxury package, which just gets the body colored trim package. As well, you do get real carbon fiber trim on the inside, which we'll get to. So the XT4 Sport starts at $43,000 Canadian. This one, fully optioned out, is $64,000 Canadian. Yeah, just about $18,000 in options right here. So we are going to go over everything. A lot of it is tech related, but some of it is underneath the car as well. So let's get it inside and take it for a drive. Oh yeah, it's quick. All right, you guys, this is the 2019 Cadillac XT4 Sport, 237 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, coming from that glorious 2-liter turbocharged engine. Okay, so right off the bat, it's very overzealous in thinking that I'm going to collide into the car in front of me. Much was the same with the Acura ILX we filmed recently. If you have the collision sensor warnings and like safety features actually on, it will do a full emergency ABS stop at its own will. Very scary stuff. I always turn that off whenever I'm in a car. It would be nice if it was literally just there in like the most emergency of circumstances, but when you have a good idea of what the car is in front of you, where it is in relation to the front of your own car, and you know exactly how much space you have, so you begin accelerating, and then the car just like slams on the brakes. So I don't know what would happen if you got rear-ended in a scenario like that. I would be to blame, even though I didn't do anything. The car was the one to brake. But 2019, it's a weird year to be alive. There's all these weird technology features that are kind of in, let's say, beta testing mode, as it were. But okay, so first things first, we just reviewed the Honda HR-V, which is a crossover as well, kind of in the same class. They both start kind of in the same class, although the Honda HR-V definitely starts at a much lower price bracket. The Cadillac XT4 starts at $43,000, or at least the sport model does. So the first thing you notice, at least on paper, when comparing the HR-V to the XT4, is with this luxury that you get over the HR-V, which it is much, much nicer in here than the HR-V. This also weighs about 700 pounds more than the HR-V. So fuel economy is definitely down from the HR-V. But that being said, you get what you pay for, honestly, to a certain extent. And I will get to that when we get to a red light. I'll read some of the options for you guys. But upon first impression, steering is very light. It doesn't feel, I mean, it feels, connected to something, to put it blunt. It's all right. It's way too light for my liking. It's not very inspiring. You don't really feel much through the road or in the corners. But that being said, this is a Cadillac. And Cadillacs definitely had their fair share of changes and brand kind of philosophy change over the years. And they're kind of going back to that very luxurious feel on the inside, which is why I'm not surprised by the incredibly light weight through the steering. As was mentioned in the beginning of the video, this starts at $43,000. Yeah, see there, the seat vibrates when it wants me to brake because you guys saw that car in front of me. Yeah, how do I turn that off? It's a little bit silly, to be honest. It pretty much, most of the safety systems in cars nowadays, and especially in the XT4, assume you're a bit of an idiot behind the wheel. It assumes you are completely blind, which I guess it has to cater to the slowest sheep in the pack, but like, honestly, you guys, it's just shut all that off. And it's all optional, so I would not spend the money to get this like automatic braking technology. If you consider yourself a somewhat, alert driver, you don't need half these safety features whatsoever. And in my perspective, over the years, you'll just get used to these safety features and become reliant on them so that when you get into a different car that doesn't have the safety features, you're lost. And all of a sudden your driver skill level has went to here with a car that does a lot of things for you, down to here when you actually have to do stuff yourself. So the 2-liter turbo, torque comes on very strong at the low end. Fuel economy, let's just say, is not best in class. The Honda HR-V we filmed recently, although it was very uninspiring because it was a CVT and just like a naturally aspirated engine, just so uninspiring, very, very slow. Gutless, I think is the term I used in real time. This 2.0 turbo has a lot of torque. I mean, it is slowly approaching on 300 pound-feet of torque, which you really need, especially because I was mentioning this is a heavy, heavy crossover. And this goes along with a lot of what I have to say about crossovers in general is if you're going to get an XT4 like this and spec it with these 20-inch, monstrous 20-inch diamond cut wheels, which do look very good. They're just way too big for the car, and like over train tracks like that, they're unnecessarily harsh. I would spec the 2-inch smaller 18-inch wheels, and then you get better ride quality as a result. If you're going to spec out an XT4 like this to be very luxurious and have those 20-inch wheels, you're probably not taking it off-road, which means you probably don't need the ride height, which means you probably don't need the vehicle to be this high up, which means you probably don't even need a crossover. I find most people who buy crossovers just want to sit higher up. But there's a sacrifice. This weighs a ton, which means it's definitely not as agile in the corners as a smaller hatchback would be with the same amount of cargo space and seating room. So we are in sport mode right now. Throttle response is fairly good, although the gearing, it does drop down in RPMs very fast. You'd expect in sport mode for it to keep the revs a little bit higher to keep you in that torque band. Although I guess torque is, a little bit lower down, but even still, does take a second to shift down a couple of gears. It being a 9-speed, that's way too many gears. Come on, GM. A 9-speed? It does not need 9 gears. And I thought 7 speeds was ridiculous, but regardless, I mean, it's only a bad thing if you want to kind of notice it, if you choose to notice it. For most people, I think it's fine. All-wheel drive system. This does have an awesome all-wheel drive system. Most of the XT4s come with all-wheel drive. In fact, you can only get the base luxury trim with only front-wheel drive, and that starts at about, a little bit cheaper of a price. On the road, it's very comfortable. It rides extremely nice, even with these 20-inch wheels. Honestly, I'm fairly surprised at what they've done with these 20s, but regardless of the ride, the 18s will just be more comfortable on the road. That's what I would spec it with, especially in a luxury SUV like that. So you can either choose between having, your baller 20-inch wheels or you can go with the much more comfortable option of the 18s, which kind of go along with the luxury vibe of the XT4. And it's not just a vibe in the XT4. Honestly, this feels like a premium luxury crossover. If you're looking at crossovers and you want to spend the extra buck to get something that you're not just paying for the tech necessarily, or just kind of basic tech and a basic all-wheel drive system, this is a very good place to start. At first, honestly, you guys, I thought it was overpriced, and to a certain extent, I kind of still do. I think it's about $5,000 too expensive, but you get so much, and you get to choose exactly what you want. Like, you don't have to have the carbon fiber trim. You don't have to pay extra for this color. This color is $900. You don't have to pay the $1,300 for the adaptive sport suspension, but you should. That is the one option that you can only get with the sport package on the XT4 that I definitely think will make your driving experience worthwhile, especially with the money you're spending here. I mean, $64,000 is no joke. So to have magnetic active suspension and dampers that change their rates at a like second by second basis, or even quicker than that, is definitely a huge asset to have, and the ride quality is some of the best I've seen, definitely in this segment.
Historically speaking, Cadillac has been known to produce high-quality, luxurious cars for the American market. Unfortunately, in the mid-2000s, they started to go downhill quite a bit, and they lost some of that respect that they had built up over the years. Thankfully though, after hopping in this 2019 Cadillac XT4, I have to say I'm really impressed with what Cadillac has included in this model. Some really ingenious features that I can't wait to show you guys. But before we do that, I do have to point out one big gripe I have with this car. And we'll head around the back, and that's the storage space they offer. Now, when you look at the outside of this car, it looks quite tall. So you would imagine you would have quite a bit of space on the inside. Unfortunately, with just the way that the car is designed, you're actually quite limited in terms of height, of how much space you have to store things. But anyways, let's hop in the inside and take a look at the interior. So as soon as you hop inside this car, the first thing that jumps out at you are these awesome white leather seats. They look really luxurious, a great feel to them, and overall, everything in the car just feels nice, it's sturdy, there's no rattles, there's no shakes, it just feels good. Even the cup holders are not thin plastic. It's actually this nice textured material that's a little bit different than most cars. So again, with this car being fully spec'd out, you get a lot of really cool features. So I'm just gonna run through a couple things here quickly with you guys. Now to start off with, thankfully they've included a wireless charging pad. Now this is a little bit of a different design that I'm not exactly sure where I stand on it as of yet, but it's actually slanted inside the actual armrest. Now it just has this little ridge here that's actually stopping your phone from just bouncing completely into the armrest itself. I don't know how securely this will actually hold your phone, as the moment you go over a bump, I feel that it might just pop off and just go straight in there. But honestly, so far it's worked great, and the connectivity of it seems to work flawlessly. Now obviously with this car, you get this awesome extended sunroof, and I just really love extended sunroofs as it lets in a lot of natural light, and it really gives you that nice wide open view of the sky while you're driving. Now, as with a lot of other GM vehicles that we have filmed, this car is equipped with a USB-C charger on top of your normal USB charger. Now, with more and more electronics going towards the USB-C format, it's nice to have that fast charging capability in this car. Now, obviously, this being a luxurious car, just like a lot of other cars that we have filmed, you have your heated as well as your vented seats, as well as heated seats in the rear. And that's always a nice feature, as when people are in the back, it gives them a little bit more comfort on the road. Now taking a look at the steering wheel, I have to say I really like what Cadillac has done. It is a little bit on the thicker side, but overall there's just the right amount of buttons and they're all very easy to use. Now, one of my favorite features of the Mazda 3 that we filmed recently is the heads-up display that they include in that car. Now, Cadillac has included their own heads-up display in this model, and I have to say, I think it beats Mazda's. It has multiple modes and a lot of features that you can actually scroll through and have access to. So to start off with, you have the buttons on the side that allow you to control things like the brightness, the placement, and other things, as well as scroll through all the different modes you have available. So whether you want to see just the RPMs, or your speed, or the speed limit, you can scroll through and select which one best suits your needs. Now with this car, they've included the carbon fiber trim. And what's really nice about it is they actually have this red weave throughout it, which really complements the kind of burgundy stitching they have along the dash. Now, one of the really cool features they've included in this car that I'm really excited about is this little switch here. And what this does is it takes the manual mirror and it flips to the actual backup camera you have in the rear. So all you do is you pull it forward and all of a sudden this becomes an LCD screen and you can actually see out the back. And you have features on the side that allow you to zoom into certain areas or change your brightness. And I just think that's such a cool feature that I haven't seen in other cars before. Now looking at the gauge cluster, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that's a little bit bland, a little bit stale. I think they could have done a better job with how they laid it out, especially this being a more of a luxurious car. Now, one of the coolest things about this car is it actually is equipped with NFC. And what that means is it allows you to connect your phone simply by tapping it right on the dash. Now, we've all been in this situation where you have a phone, you want to connect it to Bluetooth or whatever the situation is, and you're going through trying to hit the actual sync mode and discover mode and all this kind of stuff to get it synced up. But they've actually removed all that hassle by including this little pad here. So all you have to do is take your phone out of your pocket, make sure it's unlocked, and tap it to the dash, and it'll automatically connect it to the actual infotainment system. And I just think that's the coolest feature, especially when you have other people in the car and you want to do a quick sync. Now, in terms of the infotainment system, I have to say, I'm quite impressed with what Cadillac has done. It's a very simple layout. It does look a bit plain and a little bit basic, but overall, everything is really responsive. It's actually one of the most responsive touchscreen infotainment systems I think I've ever used. Now, what Cadillac set out to do was to create an infotainment system that kind of closely resembles the functionality of a touchscreen device, such as an iPad or a cell phone. So if you want to move around buttons, all you actually have to do is click and hold, and you can put it anywhere you want on the list. So you can actually customize it exactly how you want the layout to be. Obviously, through the infotainment system, you have access to your camera, your climate control buttons, and everything else. And it just works great. So this being a GM vehicle, it has one of the best camera setups I think I've ever seen. Now, you have so many different modes and so many different angles that you can choose from, such as your normal front and rear camera, as well as an aerial view looking down at the car and a bird's eye view looking on top of the vehicle. As well, they've also included the actual front wheel well cameras. So when you're pulling into a stall, you don't have to worry about dinging your rims. But anyways, let's hop back in the car with Marcus and finish up the review.
So it is a 9-speed auto. It's not a dual clutch. The paddles are not what I would call responsive. Click, shift, click, shift. Not what I would call responsive, and it's a 9-speed. So if you are in manual mode and you shift up to even 8th gear here, and then floor it, see, this is what I like. In the Mazda 3 automatic, if you're in sport mode in manual and you're low in the RPMs, you can go full throttle, it will downshift automatically against your will, even though you're in manual mode. This Cadillac does not do that. You're in 7th gear, I hit full throttle in manual, it stays in 7th gear. So congrats, Cadillac. You actually gave us a little bit of control, even though your transmission is not the greatest. It's a fine transmission. I would not bother putting it in manual mode. There is nothing special going on there whatsoever. I would just keep it in drive. We'll try out a different mode here. So in touring mode, it switches from all-wheel drive to front-wheel drive. So it completely disconnects the rear wheels from the powertrain, and you are left with a little bit more fuel-efficient SUV if you're just on the road. In all reality, you're only really going to need all-wheel drive in the snow. You know, if you live up in Canada, that's great. But again, snow tires are more important than an all-wheel drive system in the snow. That has to be said. So overall, you know, the XT4 is not a value proposition. It is not a bargain crossover. This is the more high-end luxury end of the crossover market. And you get a very well-rounded vehicle here. That's what I'm feeling. There's nothing in particular that stands out as being totally stellar and amazing aside from the interior. I mean, the interior is pretty great. It is really great. Definitely almost up to spec with a lot of the other European options, especially for the price. But that being said, the engine's good. It's not insanely fast. It's not overpowered. The steering is good. The fuel economy is good, but not great at all. There are definitely crossovers. Like I said, the HR-V, they get much, much better fuel economy, but you do have a sacrifice in power with the HR-V as well. So we'll do a little bit of an acceleration test, see how far 237 horsepower and 258 pound-feet get us. Just in drive, we'll put it in sport mode, because why not? All-wheel drive. And let's go. Will we reach 100? 100. Little bit of body roll, a little bit of dive. You know, it's a softer SUV. It's a luxury SUV. But here's the thing. Cadillac is not relegated themselves anymore in 2019 to the older senior crowd. It still has enough tech. In fact, it has a lot of tech. All the tech. It literally has pretty much all the tech you could ask for in a 2019 crossover, but you're going to pay for it. Okay, so a couple little things. Like I said, active sport suspension is $1,400. Trailering package is $700. This Twilight Blue Metallic is $900. Driver assist package, $1,300. Comfort and convenience package is $2,800. Now with that, you do get ventilated front seats, leather seating surfaces, an 8-way power passenger seat, and the hands-free liftgate. So a few items there that you might want, but expensive options for sure. But luckily, Cadillac has gone the route of giving you, a complete list of options that you can choose one by one. They are packages, but they all kind of make sense with what's in the package. So if you want some of the safety features like the lane departure warning, and when it brakes, when it senses there's something in front of you, etc., you can get that. But then again, if you don't want the power liftgate or something like that, you can do that as well. So the options and the amount you can customize with the XT4 from the factory is one of its strong suits. I mean, if you really want exactly the crossover you want, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue against this vehicle. Again, I think it's a little bit overpriced, but I'm not going to go too much into detail on that until we drive some of its German counterparts. Quick, not fast. It's definitely quick enough though. It's much, much quicker than the HR-V. You get adequate torque. You can tow with this vehicle if you so desire. It does have, it would put a little bit more strain on the engine if you are towing, because the turbo would be constantly spooled up and in boost, creating a little bit more heat. But good thing this car has come with the optional beefed up cooling package, which Cadillac offers with this vehicle. I find that very strange, considering the only other vehicles I've really seen that in are like the Shelby GT350R that we did a feature on recently, which has like an oil cooler, a diff cooler, but that's because it's a track car. So if you want to get the optional beefed up cooling package from Cadillac, you can do so, but that makes me wonder, is the standard Cadillac cooling system actually adequate if they even offer you a beefed up cooling package? Like, are they admitting that the standard cooling package might not be enough in some extreme scenarios? I don't know. But regardless, you can get the beefier cooling package, whatever that actually entails. So we have been driving this XT4 for the last week, and unfortunately, I really hate to say this, but we have not been able to get close to the advertised fuel economy. It has come in a little bit under both highway and city driving. Now it is a turbocharged 2-liter, so, you know, assuming you're in 9th gear cruising on the freeway, you know, going 115, 120 kilometers an hour, you're in 9th gear, you're not in boost, you're sipping fuel, but you might be able to hit those fuel economy numbers, but I mean, you are hard pressed to do so. It's gonna take, you know, a lot of work to get to those numbers. Just disappointing to say the least, but I'm sure if you tried hard enough, you could probably get the advertised fuel economy. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy this quick review on the Cadillac XT4 Sport model. Sorry we weren't able to take it off-road, but maybe the next crossover we could, you know, go off some jumps or at least hit a trail or two. But thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at Roads Untraveled, and you can keep up to date with what we're filming on a day-to-day basis. But until next time, my name is Marcus, and we'll see you guys next time.